Welcome to this 365 Freedom Strategy session. Today we're breaking down the mechanics of aligned workflows and why your brain is currently overcharged by the fog tax.
Exactly. And we're operating today as your internal strategic partners.
Right.
That means we aren't here to give you, vague motivational talking points about working harder.
No, nobody needs more of that.
Right. We're looking at the rigid, reliable architecture of how you actually get work done. We want to shift your reliance on unpredictable inspiration to highly dependable, systematized workflows.
Yeah, you're sitting at the table with us right now, and we're treating you like the peer you are. Today, we're pulling our insights from a module called Systematized Clarity, the Architecture of Aligned Workflows.
That's from week 4 of the FreedomFlow curriculum.
Right, week 4. And it's a phenomenal piece of curriculum. What we're really examining today is a fundamental misunderstanding about how high-level work happens.
Yep.
The core thesis of our session is that clarity is not a feeling.
It's not.
It isn't an emotion that you just, sit around waiting for. It's a system that you actively build.
And when we look at the principles and the case studies presented in this curriculum, you start to see a massive operational divide.
A huge one.
On one side, you have leaders who wait for direction to arrive.
Right.
On the other side, you have operators who engineer that direction mechanically.
And that idea of relying on inspiration is exactly where I want to start. Because the curriculum makes a really bold claim right up front.
It does.
It says that clarity is incredibly slippery and unpredictable when it depends on inspiration. The text literally says, some days it's strong, other days it's nowhere.
Nowhere.
And honestly, anyone listening to this right now who runs a business, leads a team, or manages a complex roster of projects.
Which is probably all of you.
Exactly. You know exactly what that feels like. If you're relying on an emotion to get your work done, and that emotion is nowhere on a Tuesday morning.
You have a massive operational vulnerability.
Right. You are totally exposed.
You are. And that vulnerability is the direct cause of what the curriculum refers to as navigating the fog.
The fog. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Let's introduce a concept to formalize this. We call it the fog tax.
The fog tax. I love that framing.
Think of this as the invisible overhead you pay in cognitive load every single day.
Right.
The fog tax is the wasted time and the burned mental energy you spend just sitting at a desk, staring at a screen, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do.
Just burning fuel while idling.
Exactly. You aren't actually executing the work. You're doing the exhausting meta work of deciding how to begin the work.
Let's make that really concrete for everyone. Walk me through what paying the fog tax actually looks like in a typical morning for a founder or a manager.
Sure. Let's say it's 8:30 in the morning.
Okay.
You sit down at your desk with your coffee. You know you have a major proposal due by Friday.
Right.
You have 3 client escalations you need to address immediately. And your marketing team needs approval on a campaign. So you open your laptop. First, you check your email. There are 40 unread messages.
Always.
Then you open Slack, and there are 5 red notification dots staring at you.
Oh, those red dots.
Right. You look at your to-do list, which is basically a sprawling, unorganized brain dump of 30 different tasks.
The completely flat hierarchy.
Exactly. In that exact moment, your brain starts spinning its wheels. You look at the proposal, you look at the emails, you look at Slack.
You're jumping between them.
You're trying to weigh the relative importance of each item. You're trying to calculate how much energy each task is going to take.
Right. And during all of this, you haven't written a single word of that proposal.
Not a single word.
You haven't made a single strategic decision.
Not one. But an hour goes by. It's now 9:30.
Yeah.
You finally decide, okay, I'm going to start with the proposal.
But you're already exhausted.
You feel completely depleted. You need another cup of coffee. You feel like you've already run a mental marathon and you haven't even started the actual work.
That is the fog tax. The cognitive load required to hold multiple complex variables in your mind, rank them by priority, and then manufacture the motivation to start the most difficult one is immense.
It's massive.
It drains the exact operational stamina you need to execute. By the time you finally decide on a course of action, your executive function, the part of your brain responsible for focus and self-control, is already compromised.
Reading through this curriculum, there's a phrase that really caught my eye in relation to this exact scenario.
Which one?
It mentions how people try to think their way into direction.
Ah, yes.
They wait for the right idea, the right feeling, or the right moment.
Yep.
It seems like a trap that highly ambitious people fall into without even realizing it. Why do founders and leaders actively sabotage their own output by doing this?
Because they equate hard, intense thinking with productive action.
Right. They think the struggle is the work.
Exactly. If you're a founder, you got to where you are because you have a good brain.
You're a problem solver. So when you hit a wall of ambiguity, your default response is to think harder.
Just push through it mentally.
Right. You sit there waiting for a feeling of direction, and you convince yourself that you're being strategic.
You're strategizing.
You furrow your brow, you pace around the office, you sketch aimless diagrams on a whiteboard.
We've all done the whiteboard diagrams.
Of course. And you tell yourself, I'm conceptualizing, I'm planning. But the reality is much harsher.
You're stalling.
You are stalling.
We really romanticize the aha moment, don't we?
We completely do.
It's like we've been conditioned by movies and pop business culture to believe that great work starts with a sudden strike of lightning.
The visionary CEO.
Exactly. The visionary CEO looking out the window until the perfect strategy just materializes in their mind. So when the lightning doesn't strike at 8:30 in the morning,
Which it almost never does.
we assume we just need to stare out the window a little longer to summon the storm.
It's a massive misconception. The fundamental flaw here, and what the curriculum aggressively pushes back against, is treating clarity as an emotional state.
Right.
Or as a sudden burst of artistic inspiration rather than a mechanical outcome.
A mechanical outcome.
Yes. If clarity is an emotion, you're completely at its mercy.
You have no control.
Let's say you had a bad night's sleep because your kid was awake. Or a client sent a really frustrating email right before you went to bed.
Oh, that'll ruin your morning.
Or you just woke up feeling a little lethargic. Because your emotional baseline is compromised, that feeling of clarity simply won't arrive.
Yeah.
Your operations grind to a halt because the muse didn't show up.
But if clarity is a mechanical outcome...
If it's a mechanical outcome, it functions like a light switch.
Okay, I like that.
The wiring is in place in the walls. You walk into the room, you flip the switch, and the light turns on.
The light bulb doesn't care how you feel.
Exactly. The light bulb doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if you're frustrated. The mechanical action produces the outcome.
Every single time.
Every time. The problem is that most leaders haven't installed the wiring.
They skip that step.
They're just standing in a dark room, paying the fog tax, waiting for their eyes to magically adjust to the darkness.
That overwhelming feeling of standing in the dark. That is exactly what happens to the client in the micro story featured in the curriculum.
Yes, the lost at the desk story.
Right. The author tells this great story about a client who felt entirely lost every time she sat down to work. And the text points out a really critical paradox here.
It does.
It says, she had goals, ideas, and projects, but the order never felt clear.
That paradox is the crux of the issue. It's so important to recognize what this client was not.
Okay.
She was not lazy.
Well,
She was not lacking ambition or vision. She was not out of ideas.
right. She had plenty of ideas.
In fact, she had an abundance of all those things, which actually made the problem worse.
How so?
Well, she had massive goals and incredibly important projects. The failure point wasn't a lack of destination. The failure point was strictly sequential.
The order never felt clear.
Exactly. The order.
It's the paralysis of choice. Having massive goals but absolutely no structured order to execute them creates this intense friction. You sit down, and because there's no defined next step, your brain attempts to process the entirety of a massive project all at once.
Yes, let's explore the cognitive science behind that paralysis, because it isn't just a metaphor.
It's biological.
It is a biological response. In the brain, you have the amygdala, which is essentially your threat detection center.
The lizard brain.
Right. Its job is to keep you safe from predators. In a modern office setting, we aren't running from tigers, but the amygdala still processes overwhelming, unstructured information as a threat.
Wait, so you're saying that looking at a massive, disorganized to-do list triggers the exact same biological response as a physical threat?
In terms of the stress response, yes. Let's say your goal is to launch a completely new service offering for your company.
Okay, a huge project.
Huge. If you don't have a micro-level sequence defined, your brain doesn't just see a simple task like draft an email.
What does it see?
Your brain sees the landing page, the complex pricing model, the marketing copy, the technical software integration, the customer support protocols, and the very real financial risk if the launch fails.
It sees all of it.
It sees all of that simultaneously. That is a massive cognitive overload.
Yeah.
The brain cannot process that many unstructured, high-stakes variables at once. So the amygdala sounds the alarm, triggering a stress response.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in the context of knowledge work, freeze looks like procrastination.
Staring at the screen.
Right. Flight looks like opening a new browser tab to read the news or scrolling through social media.
Escaping.
Your brain is literally trying to escape the perceived threat of the unstructured project. That stress response is the fog.
It makes me think of trying to cook a 5-course meal, but instead of handing you a recipe with step 1, step 2, and step 3,
Right.
someone just dumps a 50-pound bag of flour, raw eggs, and uncut vegetables all over your kitchen counter and says, be a visionary, figure it out.
Good luck.
You wouldn't feel inspired. You would just stand there staring at the mess, completely paralyzed.
That is a perfect analogy. And the emotional toll of standing in that messy kitchen every single day is devastating over time.
It has to be.
Operating in that fog systematically destroys a leader's confidence. The curriculum explicitly notes that when this client finally implemented a system, it rebuilt her confidence piece by piece.
Let's talk about that erosion of confidence, because I think a lot of high achievers suffer from this in silence.
They absolutely do.
When you constantly spend valuable time sitting at your desk, struggling to decide where to begin, a very destructive internal narrative takes root.
Yeah.
You start thinking, I'm a fraud. A real CEO would know exactly what to do.
I should know this.
A real professional wouldn't waste an hour staring at an inbox. I must not have what it takes.
It's textbook imposter syndrome, but it's manufactured by a bad workflow.
Manufactured by the workflow, not a character flaw.
Exactly. Confidence in a professional setting is largely derived from self-efficacy.
Define that for us.
Self-efficacy is your belief in your own capacity to execute the behaviors necessary to produce specific results.
Okay.
When you sit in the fog, you are failing to execute. So you begin to attribute a systemic failure to a personal flaw.
You internalize it.
You internalize it. You think you lack discipline or intelligence or drive. You judge your fundamental character based on the failure of a non-existent system.
That is heavy. Judging your character based on the failure of a non-existent system.
But it's true. That's why the curriculum says the structure rebuilt her confidence piece by piece.
Because she finally had proof.
Yes. As she removed the daily failure of not knowing what to do, she stopped proving to herself that she was lost.
Right.
She started proving to herself that she was capable. Action builds evidence, and evidence builds confidence.
Okay, so how do we fix this?
We build the architect.
How do we build this system? Because the author makes a very sharp technical distinction here between traditional planning and what they call workflow architecture.
They're not the same thing.
Not at all. The curriculum gives us a strict rule. When the client finally solved her problem, she created a list. But the text emphasizes not a full plan, just the next actionable step.
That distinction is the bedrock of building aligned workflows.
Let's break that down.
Let's look at what a traditional full plan actually is.
Okay?
A full plan is a macro-level overview.
The big picture.
It's a massive spreadsheet with 50 rows. It's a complex Gantt chart with dependencies and milestones.
Look at colors.
Lots of colors. It's a 30-page strategic document designed to capture the entire scope of a project from inception to completion, maybe spanning 6 months or a year.
But wait, let me challenge that.
Go ahead.
If I'm a CEO or a senior director, I have to hold the macro view.
Yes.
I can't just look at step 1 all day long, or my company's going to hit an iceberg because no one is looking at the horizon. How does a leader balance this need for a micro focus with their macro responsibility?
It's a vital question, and it comes down to compartmentalization.
Compartmentalization.
Holding the macro view and executing daily tasks require two entirely different cognitive states.
Right.
Macro planning absolutely has its place. You need the 30-page document when you're doing your quarterly retreat, allocating budget, or aligning your executive team.
So you're not saying throw away the plan?
No, not at all. But, and this is the crucial point, that macro plan is entirely the wrong tool for daily individual execution.
Why do full plans fail so spectacularly on a Tuesday morning?
Because they're too heavy.
Too heavy.
They look fantastic in a boardroom or on a Sunday afternoon when you have a cup of tea and endless energy to dream about the future.
Sunday afternoon planning is very different from Tuesday morning execution.
Completely different. At 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, when you have those 50 unread emails, a looming deadline, and a slight headache, a full plan doesn't tell you what your hands should be doing right now.
What your hands should be doing. I like that.
You look at the Gantt chart and it says, Phase 2, market penetration.
Right.
What does that mean for your keyboard in the next 5 minutes? Nothing. It requires translation.
Translation.
And translation requires cognitive load, which puts you right back into the fog tax.
So creating a massive plan can actually be another way founders try to think their way into clarity.
Yes. Building a complex plan often becomes a highly sophisticated form of procrastination.
Because it feels like work.
It feels incredibly productive. You color code the spreadsheet, you adjust the margins on the strategy document, and you feel like you're working.
But you're not moving the needle.
But it's just a manifestation of the fog tax. You're burning your operational stamina, mapping out step 47 when you haven't even executed step 1.
That makes a lot of sense. So if planning is the macro, what exactly is workflow architecture?
Workflow architecture, as defined by the principles in the curriculum, is about building systems that show you exactly what comes next.
Okay.
It abandons the macro in the moment of execution.
Completely.
Completely. It is entirely about micro-level structure. It's the engineering of the very next move.
We're zooming all the way in.
All the way in. Workflow architecture acknowledges the limitations of human working memory and daily willpower.
Right.
Your brain is an incredible processing engine. It's meant for solving complex problems, analyzing data, generating creative solutions.
It's a great processor.
But it is a terrible storage hard drive.
That is such a good point.
If you try to keep the entire project plan in your head, or even if you force yourself to parse a massive document just to figure out your daily tasks, you're wasting processing power on storage.
You're eating up RAM.
Exactly. A simple next step list removes significantly more confusion than a comprehensive strategy document because it completely eliminates the need for interpretation.
I love that phrasing. It eliminates the need for interpretation.
Yes.
You don't have to decipher the grand overarching strategy of market penetration.
No?
You just look at your architecture that says, call David at the PR agency to approve the press release quote.
Exactly.
That is a discrete, executable action. Let's go into the actual mechanics of this.
Let's do it.
How do we build this architecture? Because the curriculum essentially hands us a direct instruction manual.
It does.
It outlines a next step protocol. It says, choose one project, define the next key actionable step, keep it simple, let it guide you.
Let's break down each parameter of that protocol because the wording is very deliberate.
Very precise.
Let's start with choose one project. This directly attacks the paralysis of choice we discussed earlier. It forces a singular focus.
Let me play devil's advocate again here because real life is messy.
It is.
What if two projects are literally on fire?
Okay.
What if I have a major client threatening to leave? And at the exact same time, my payroll software crashes and I have to fix it so my team gets paid tomorrow.
A bad day.
A terrible day. But I can't just choose one project and ignore the other.
You're talking about triage.
Right.
Which is a necessary skill, but even in an emergency room, doctors don't perform CPR and set a broken leg on two different patients at the exact same millisecond.
That's a great image.
They prioritize sequentially. If two projects are on fire, the workflow architecture step isn't to work on both simultaneously.
You can't.
The first actionable step is the meta decision. Determine which fire will burn the house down first.
Right.
You make that decision, say payroll is more critical, and then you choose that one project. Singularity is a physical requirement of human execution.
Because we aren't computers.
You only have two hands and one brain. Trying to toggle between two high-stakes projects simultaneously just guarantees that both will be executed poorly, and you will multiply your cognitive load.
Fair point. You have to force the singularity.
You have to.
So you choose the one project.
Yeah.
The next instruction is define the next key actionable step.
Yes.
The curriculum mentions keeping it to a tiny step or a concrete step. How granular are we talking here?
Extremely granular. It requires translating a vague goal into a physical, measurable behavior.
Okay, give me an example.
You cannot execute grow the business.
Too vague.
You can't even really execute write the proposal because write the proposal is still a project disguised as a task.
Really? Write the proposal is a project.
Think about it. It involves research, drafting, editing, formatting.
Okay, yeah, I see that. So what is the concrete step?
The concrete step is open the financial data spreadsheet from Q3 and copy the revenue numbers into a new Word document.
That is very specific.
That is an action. You can physically observe someone doing it.
Right, I could watch you do that.
And it must be singular. You don't write down the next top 3 steps. You write down the very next step.
Why only one? Why not a list of 3? If I know the next 3 things, wouldn't I move faster?
Because it's cognitive friction.
Precisely. By narrowing the focus to a single executable item, open the Word document and write the title, you lower the barrier to entry so drastically that it becomes easier to just do the task than to avoid it.
You're tricking your own brain.
You are. You completely eliminate the need for inspiration.
You don't need a muse.
You don't need a muse to sit on your shoulder and play a harp for you to open a Word document.
No.
You just need the baseline discipline to look at the list and follow the incredibly simple instruction you previously left for yourself.
You're basically being a good boss to your future self.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Which brings up a really powerful line from the curriculum. Her system provided the clarity her mind had been trying to create on its own.
Yes.
That speaks to the incredible relief of offloading this cognitive burden.
The relief is massive.
Your mind is meant for executing the work, for being creative within the bounds of a specific task, for solving the immediate problem in front of you. It's not meant to hold the entire map of the universe. This is a vital paradigm shift. You have to stop demanding that your mind perform two conflicting jobs simultaneously.
Like what?
Think about constructing a building.
Okay.
Your mind cannot efficiently be both the master architect designing the blueprints for the skyscraper and the bricklayer placing the cement on the ground floor.
Not at the same time.
When you try to be the architect and the bricklayer at the exact same moment, you get the fog.
Right.
The system, the workflow architecture, the next step list you create at the end of the previous day holds the map.
The system is the architect.
The system is the architect. Your mind, in the moment of daily execution on a Tuesday morning, is just the bricklayer.
Just laying bricks.
You don't worry about the roof. You just take the next brick and you place it.
Okay, let's talk about the bottom line. What is the real ROI of this strategy?
The return on investment.
Right, because we're talking about reclaiming output and confidence. In the micro story about the client, the timeline of her transformation is frankly staggering. The text says, the next morning she sat down, opened her list, and within seconds knew where to begin.
Let's focus on that metric.
Within seconds.
Within seconds. That is the ultimate total elimination of the fog tax.
Yes.
Contrast those few seconds with the months she spent navigating the fog, losing an hour or two every single day just trying to get started.
If you calculate the sheer volume of hours reclaimed over a year by simply removing the friction of asking, what do I do next?
It's exponential.
The impact on a company's output is exponential. If a founder reclaims 10 hours a week of pure executive function, that is enough time to launch an entirely new division.
Or simply go home at 5 p.m. and see their family without being stressed.
Which is just as important.
Maybe more important. The ROI isn't just about speed of execution, it's about predictability.
Predictability.
The curriculum notes, you'll be surprised how quickly direction returns.
Right.
Direction isn't a magical gift, it becomes an operational byproduct of the system.
Ground that term for me. What does operational byproduct feel like to the person sitting at the desk?
It means you don't have to force yourself to work anymore.
Okay.
The work just pulls you forward because the path is completely cleared.
Pulls you forward.
Have you ever been stuck in a traffic jam for an hour and it's agonizing stop-and-go misery?
Too many times.
And then suddenly the lane opens up, the accident is cleared, and you just press the accelerator and go.
Best feeling.
The car wants to move. Natural momentum takes over.
Right.
When the friction of deciding what's next is gone, you don't have to push a boulder up a hill, you just take the brake off the wheels.
Just let it roll.
The initial tiny step breaks the static friction, and kinetic momentum carries you into the second step and the third.
It's the transition from static friction to kinetic friction.
Yes.
It takes way more energy to get an object moving than to keep it moving.
Exactly. But more importantly than speed, you develop dependability over surprise.
Dependable.
Think about how much anxiety comes from waking up and wondering, will I have a productive day today? Will I feel motivated?
That anxiety is exhausting on its own.
It is. When you build workflow architecture, you remove the element of surprise. You know you will be productive because your system dictates the sequence rather than your fluctuating energy levels.
Safe.
Clarity becomes reliable because it is mechanically structured.
It's like building a railroad track.
Yes.
The train doesn't have to wake up and decide which way to go. It just sits on the rails.
Yeah.
All the energy goes into moving the engine forward, not steering.
Exactly.
And as you build that track, you begin to trust your system implicitly, which frees up an immense amount of mental bandwidth.
So if we synthesize everything we've broken down today,
Let's bring it all together.
if you are tired of paying the fog tax, the strategic shift is incredibly clear.
Stop trying to think your way to clarity.
Stop relying on unpredictable inspiration to run your daily operations. The transition from feeling lost and overwhelmed to executing with precision does not require a massive overhaul of your personality.
You don't have to change who you are.
You don't need a different brain. You simply need to acknowledge that clarity is a system, and then you need to architect a simple, rigid, next step workflow.
And as we wrap up this session, we want to leave you with a challenging thought to mull over regarding your own operations.
Something to really think about.
We've established today that clarity isn't a feeling, it's a system. So look around your work life, your business, your team. What other positive outcomes, maybe it's motivation, maybe it's creativity, or even just peace of mind, are you currently waiting to feel when in reality they're just waiting for you to build the right workflow architecture?
It is a profound question to ask yourself. Stop waiting for the feeling and start building the system.
If you're ready for the next step toward smoother, clearer workflows, visit 365 Freedom online to join the community. This has been a 365 Freedom Strategy Session.